In this video, we are going to demonstrate how easy it is going to be for XRP to go into the double digits price-wise. We are talking about the market cap multiplier, which is an equation that I created after trying to understand the difference between market cap, liquidity value, and how easy it was to move these assets up or down based off of the liquidity that was coming into them or out of an asset. And what we come to find is that these cryptocurrencies not as liquid as the traditional stock market. And so for the TradeFi folks that are still analyzing these crypto assets through the lens of market cap exclusively and trying to grasp how these assets could go to market caps into the trillions of dollars, they can't quite get there because they were missing this equation. And this is real numbers, real data. I'm going to show you guys the equation. We're going to show you the observations that we've been making. And we're talking about XRP having a market cap multiplier at times of 400, 500, and 600x. This means that if we see a billion of inflows into XRP, we might see the market cap grow by 400 billion, 500 billion, or more. And it also could be less. You know, we can keep the assumptions conservative. And I'm just going to run with the assumptions and predictions from JP Morgan that we're going to see 4 to 8 billion of inflows into the XRP ETFs year one. And we're going to take a look at what that could do for XRP price-wise. I'll give you a little hint. We're talking about a $15 XRP. So if you want to see the math, if you want to see the breakdown, stick around till the end. I got a couple data points to cover, but we're going to get right on into it. I appreciate you guys for stopping by. And all of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. Now, Sunday, April 13th, markets were up, having a great weekend. And then Howard Lutnick, our Secretary of Commerce, just had to come do an interview, and he had to shock the market once again by saying that the tariffs on the chips, etc., some of the tech products out of China is only going to be temporary, and it's not going to be permanent. So Bitcoin was back up to 86,000 this morning. Nice little move here over the past couple days for Bitcoin. And for XRP, we'd gone all the way up to $2.25. XRP blasting back above $2 after last week. We did go down to $1.60, and that was the final flush out, in my opinion. Now we're all the way back above $2.20 this morning, and we're cooling off down to $2.15 right now after the comments from Howard Lutnick spooked the market. But we do have 130 countries now willing to negotiate new trade deals with the United States. This is according to the White House. But as I said, Howard Lutnick tells ABC that tariff exemptions for electronics are only temporary, and these items would be subject to semiconductor tariffs that will likely come in a month or two. So, if we could just get Howard Lutnick, maybe Trump, to stop doing these press conferences, our markets would just be off and running. But obviously, that's not going to happen. And once again, it just reiterates how weak our stock market is and how weak our economy was, and we got to structure a new deal. It has to be done. And so this short-term pain, I think it's something that we've already gone through the worst of it, and it should be, upwards and onwards from here as these trade deals get done, and as the markets are desensitized to all this tariff talk. I think that we've seen the worst of it, and I do expect us to continue that trajectory higher. Now, John Deaton comments here on the whitewashing, and by the way, this is the completion of the ETHgate cover-up. If we don't take it from here, it's going to be up to us, the American people, to take up the fight from here, because obviously we can't trust the government to review themselves and the conduct and the Bill Hinman activity, the Bill Hinman speech, because they've released the Office of Inspector General report, and it's a complete whitewashing of Bill Hinman and what was done at the SEC. John Deaton commenting on it right here. I've seen some whitewashing before, but this one takes the cake. The IG is claiming that even if Hinman owned Ethereum when he gave the speech, it would have not constituted a violation or even a conflict of interest. And John Deaton says, get the F out of here. I challenge her to find an ethics lawyer who will support her statement. She won't find one. The statute states that even if there isn't an actual conflict, but a federal employee allows the mere appearance of a conflict, it constitutes a violation. Here's a few points off the top of my mind that proves the IG is either incompetent or something else is at play. And in fact, I've seen one of our researchers in the community, Cowboy Crypto, already pointed out her conflicts of interest and how she's a lawyer who commonly represents top officials for our government. And so she's used to covering things up, and I think that's exactly what's at play right here. Number one, the SEC Ethics Office sternly warned Hinman that he was violating the statute every time he met with his partners at Simpson Thacher. The SEC's Ethics Division informed Hinman that he wasn't even allowed to email his partners, let alone continue to have lunch and dinner with them while they had major business dealings being reviewed by the SEC, for example, the Canon IPO, including being reviewed by the division he was in charge of. After this stern warning, Hinman met at least 3 more times with these same partners, including his China partner in charge of the Canon IPO, which made ETH mining equipment, another tie-in on Ethereum. This is according to the SEC's own ethics experts, violated the statute. Now, it is interesting to note that now Paul Atkins, the incoming and now confirmed SEC chair, what's on the table right now is actually delisting some of these Chinese stocks. So could we see an unwind? Maybe ETHgate isn't all the way dead and we are going to hone in here. I'm going to remain hopeful, but we're going to have to remain fighting because it's very clear we can't trust the government to review and hold their own accountable. Second example, the IG said that Hinman stated the speech was a collaborative effort, which is inconsistent with his deposition testimony and sworn affidavit in the Ripple case, stating that the speech was his personal opinion, that he was the only one who wrote it, with others checking for grammar and other minor corrections. So, was it a collaborative effort? Was it just his personal opinion? They've been flip-flopping back and forth. We can't get a clear answer. Clear violation, clear conflict of interest. The IG said others at the SEC wanted ETH to be included in the speech. This is objectively a false statement, and there is proof. In the Ripple case, the Hinman emails were made public. First, Hinman called the speech the Ether speech. No other SEC's officials lobbied to have ETH included in the speech. In fact, the opposite is true. The Office of General Counsel recommended not to include Ethereum in the speech. The General Counsel argued that Hinman should not give ETH a free pass because it could limit the SEC from taking a different position later, which we saw play out with Gary Gensler. Thus, the IG claiming otherwise wanted Ethereum included in the speech is objectively false. 4. The IG claims that even if Hinman owned ETH at the same time of the speech, it would have not constituted a conflict of interest. Then why did the SEC institute a policy that members of the SEC could not own tokens? The reason was to prevent a conflict of interest. I predicted that the IG report would conclude that no intentional wrongdoing was committed and that there was no quid pro quo type of smoking gun, but that the IG would have to conclude a real conflict existed and likely make recommendations on how to avoid such appearances of impropriety in the future. It's kind of hard to imagine an IG report like this one when SEC ethics officers said the opposite while it was happening. According to this IG, Paul Atkins could buy a crypto token and give a very favorable speech regarding that crypto, and no conflict would exist. Give me a break. All I'll say is, let's see where the IG lands her next job. And I would like to ask too, are we going to continue this fight or not? Are we going to give this one up and just that was the wrap up, the cover up as concluded, and now we're all done? Or are we going to continue this fight? Because I know that there are some folks that want to continue this fight and see this thing through. And myself as an American, I definitely want to, because if they can do this with Ethereum, they can do this with other tokens, they can do this with other assets. And basically, we don't fix or have any accountability in our government, this rigged casino will continue on as it has been for so long. We don't want to see that. We want a level playing field. We want accountability. Bill Hinman is guilty. And I think that it's not just Bill, right? Bill is just the tip of the iceberg and one great example that we can use. But there's a lot more when we start to peel back that onion. So I would encourage everybody, especially Americans that are listening to me, and even if you're not in America, you might have the same types of activities happening in your country too. So we got to pick up this fight and continue it. We cannot account. I mean, really, this is no surprise that we can't count on our own government to hold themselves accountable. Go figure. Now, let's get into having some fun and talking about making a lot of money, a lot higher XRP. I have to comment and note how interesting it was to me that Brad Garlinghouse followed up Larry Fink on Fox Business with Liz Klayman on Friday. Right, Liz interviewed Larry Fink, and that was a very popular interview, a big appearance by Larry Fink. and then directly after, Brad Garlinghouse shows up. And what I'm going to play in this next clip is just a small portion of this interview, which was fantastic, by the way. I encourage everybody to watch it, where Brad speaks to the Hidden Road acquisition that they made, this prime broker that they acquired for $1.25 billion, and how BlackRock could potentially be a client or customer of Hidden Road. So this ties back into how Larry Fink, remember when he told Charlie Gasparino that he just couldn't talk about an XRP ETF? And that's because they're getting ready to launch one, by the way. That's just me injecting my opinion, but my speculation. He can't talk about an XRP ETF. And we've talked about this and Ripple potentially being a partner with BlackRock in the past. But now we have Brad Garlinghouse himself kind of flirting with the idea of being a prime broker for BlackRock and these ETF products that BlackRock wants to trade. So take a listen in on this clip. Very interesting stuff.
Of those, and this week, an XRP ETF launched, correct?
It hasn't yet traded live in the United States, but it's been, we've had, I think, 11 different applications to go live with an ETF trading here in the United States. We do have it trading outside the United States. This is long overdue, and it's a step towards a more institutionalized, safer way for people to participate in these markets. Our acquisition this week, Hidden Road, we paid a $1.25 billion for what's called a prime broker. And this allows even larger institutions like BlackRock, like the biggest Wall Street financial institutions, to come into this market in a way they understand, with a safer prime broker to help clear transactions and a bigger balance sheet to do that. It's good for the whole industry.
So you heard it, BlackRock and other large Wall Street financial institutions could use this prime broker to help settle up their transactions. Now, I don't think that Brad understood that she wasn't referring to the spot XRP ETFs. She was talking about this 2x long daily XRP ETF that did go live last week. So Brad is right that the spot ETFs haven't gone live, but we do have the first XRP ETF live, and that's this 2x long XRP ETF. And Eric Balchunas, who is the senior ETF analyst for Bloomberg, he comments that the volume on this ETF is impressive. These are big numbers for day 2 through 4, especially for a 2x indie in a whack market. Child's play versus the Bitcoin ETFs, of course, but really strong. This thing is finding an audience quickly. Now, the firm that launched this ETF, they noted that this has been their most successful ETF launch ever. As word starts to get out about how successful and how much appetite there is for the XRP ETFs, it only leads and adds to what I'm about to show you next, which is running with the assumptions and predictions from JP Morgan that we would see 4 to 8 billion of inflows into XRP in just the first year after the ETFs go live. So we already have the first XRP ETF is live now. It's a leveraged ETF. The spot ETFs we expect to go live here shortly. Might take a couple more months, or some predictions even the second half of this year. But this year we will have spot XRP ETFs live, and these inflows that I'm about to talk about next will begin. Okay, and so we need to understand we're already having massive success with the first XRP ETF. We're talking about BlackRock maybe launching an XRP ETF. Brad Garlinghouse follows up Larry Fink on Fox Business. I find that very interesting, and comments, flirts, and hints at the idea of BlackRock and other Wall Street institutions using this prime broker, which, by the way, already settles $3 trillion per year, 10 billion daily, and they've already noted how a portion of that liquidity will be settled on the XRP ledger. And the collateral that will back all those transactions will be RLUSD. So we're talking about tens of billions and trillions of liquidity coming to the XRP ledger over the next few years. And that could happen sooner. It might not take a few years. That timeline could collapse. But it leads me into showing you guys and talking about this XRP market cap multiplier. Okay? So here's the equation. I just put out this tweet here this morning. The market cap multiplier by yours truly. And it's a very simple equation, right? We come up with our multiplier by taking the change in market cap divided by the net flow, and that gives us our multiplier. So a simple example would be the market cap grows by 1 billion off of 10 million of inflows. Your multiplier would be 100x in that example. The example that I shared yesterday was an 8-hour window on April 12th from 4 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern, 8-hour period. XRP's market cap pumped by $7.74 billion. We had only 12.87 million of net inflows. That equates to a 601x multiplier for XRP yesterday during that short window of time. Now, we are looking at an 8-hour window in this example, and JP Morgan predicts 4 to 8 billion over the course of a year after the ETFs go live. So would this multiplier be so dramatic during an extended period of time? Probably not. But something to note, when the ETFs go live, just like with the Bitcoin ETFs, these were the most successful ETFs ever launched. The BlackRock IBIT ETF was the most successful, but there was 11 ETFs that went live day one, and the inflows were tremendous. So while JP Morgan is predicting 4 to 8 billion of inflows in the first year after the ETFs go live, you could see hundreds of millions and maybe even over $1 billion of inflows just within that first month, just within the first few weeks of this ETF going live. I don't think that that is unreasonable to suggest that you would get tens of millions, hundreds of millions, or maybe even $1 billion of inflows through those ETFs in the first couple weeks, right? Now, I'm going to show you guys here, running through the math of this XRP market cap multiplier. And by the way, this market cap multiplier works for other cryptos too. I gave an example of XCN. XCN had pumped up earlier this week, and I shared an example where the market cap on XCN grew by about 500 million off of only 5 million of inflows. So in that example, it was nearly a 100x multiplier. So this works on other cryptos too. But listen in here as I explain this market cap multiplier equation using the conservative assumptions from JP Morgan. And in this example I share, I only use a 200x multiplier, not a 500 or 600x. I only use a 200x multiplier, and it gives us a $15 XRP with ease. Take a listen. Do you want to see how XRP reaches $15 and beyond using conservative assumptions and simple math? Well, I got you covered. I hope everybody's having a blessed Sunday. We're going to be using JP Morgan's predictions of 4 to 8 billion of inflows into XRP after the ETFs go live. We're going to run with the conservative side, that $4 billion of inflow prediction, and we're going to plug it into my market cap multiplier equation, and I'm going to show you the math on how XRP gets to 15 bucks. Check it out. All right, so we're going to run you through the math. This is the market cap multiplier by yours truly. So the equation's very simple. It is just the change in market cap divided by the net flow. This is what gives us our multiplier. So in a very simple example, we have a change in market cap of 1 billion, or the market cap increased by 1 billion, and we had 10 million of net inflows into the asset. That example would give us a 100x multiplier. Now yesterday, Saturday, April 12th, I shared an example of XRP having a multiplier of 601 during an 8-hour window. During this 8-hour period, XRP's market cap grew by $7.74 billion, but it only had 12.87 million of net inflows. This is a very dramatic multiplier of 601x over an 8-hour period. Now, JP Morgan, they gave us a prediction of 4 to 8 billion of inflows after the XRP ETFs go live in the first year. So we're going to see tremendous amount of inflows into XRP from the ETFs, but JP Morgan, their prediction is 4 to 8 billion. Okay, let's run with that. And I'm going to keep it conservative. So we have the 4 billion of net inflows into XRP through the ETFs, and I'm going to run with just a 200x multiplier, not 601, but let's have a little fun and we'll use 200x as our example. That would see XRP's market cap growing by 800 billion. Now, as I record this update today on April 13th, XRP's market cap is at 125 billion, or $2.15 roughly. Now, if we add the 125 billion to 800 billion that we would see in market cap growth based off of these inflows, you're at a $925 billion market cap for XRP. Now, I'm assuming that we have 60 billion circulating supply. Right now, the supply is actually at like 58 billion. but just running with assumption, rounding off to make this math easy for everybody to understand, we're going to assume 60 billion circulating supply. That puts us at a $15 XRP. Now, you could be more bullish with your assumptions, and maybe, JP Morgan predicts 4 to 8 billion. Maybe we see more. And we could see a more dramatic multiplier. Maybe it's less dramatic. But when these ETFs go live, one thing's for sure, we are going to see significant amounts of inflow into XRP. I've laid out my equation. I've yet to see anybody refute this. I do want to add a couple things though. Two things that are not included in this equation that do play a factor would be the futures market and then also the XRP Ledger decentralized exchange activity. So folks could be using the DEX to trade from RLUSD into XRP. They could be trading from their meme coins into XRP. And that would be additional inflows into XRP that's not tracked in the spot markets. And this is all data that I'm pulling from coinglass.com. So I've laid out my equation. I'm telling you what it doesn't include. We're running with conservative assumptions, laying out simple math. And I'm interested to hear from you guys. I think that JP Morgan, Standard Chartered, they're starting to give out some conservative predictions for XRP, but I think that we could see a lot more. You guys let me know in the comments down below. And if you appreciate what we're doing, make sure you like this video and help us out by sharing it out far and wide. God bless. Now, I hope that everybody appreciates this and you can play with the math. You can run with different assumptions all you want. I think that 60 billion's fair circulating supply because we're seeing Ripple release about 200 to 300 million per month from the escrow. If they continue with that, we'll be at 58 to 60 billion. Doesn't really matter. Inflows, 4 to 8 billion, conservative. I think that we see 10 billion plus. But hey, that's okay. And as far as the multiplier goes, maybe it's not going to be 200, maybe it's only going to be 50. Either way you play around with this, I am now convinced and willing to guarantee that XRP is on its way to a double-digit price. I'm not going to give a time frame. I mean, JP Morgan says we'll see those inflows after the year one, first year of the ETF. So Standard Chartered is willing to give you predictions of $5.50 this year, $8 by the end of 26, $10.40 by the end of 27, and $12.50 by the end of 28. I think that's conservative. I think we see more. But one thing I am willing to guarantee and put my whole reputation on is that XRP is going to a double-digit price. Guaranteed 1,000%, unless the world ends. So if the world ends, don't come at me. Other than that, it is inevitable. And by the way, I know some folks want to have me guarantee a $589 XRP. I'm not willing to go that far, but I'm also not willing to rule out these numbers. And what the key takeaway for me is with this exercise and equation is, it is so easy to move this asset. And when we do see those billions of inflows, potentially tens of billions of inflows, we are going to a lot higher price. So please lock in. Please help us out by sharing it out far and wide. If you appreciate what we're doing, make sure you like this video. Everything's at my website, zachrector.com, and we will be back tomorrow, Monday morning, with our regular updates. God bless. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.